We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
When I think about those nights in Montreal, all I think about is weed. Memories of city lights and packing bowls.
Awesome.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CannaQuebec connection. This is our Loretta's with me. Welcome, Loretta Clark, too. We're both here, and this is our debut show. So go ahead, say hello, Loretta.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am here in Montreal and so proud to be part of this amazing network and this awesome woman, Tamara, to be your co-host. I'm grateful, and I'm totally excited about doing this with you.
I think it's going to be fun. I think that, we to bring the provinces, from Canada being like this huge, and kind of bring it all into one. But I mean, there's so many things that go on in Quebec, and you're in Montreal. And on this show, just so everybody's aware, we're going to talk about everything. We don't give a fuck.
We're political bitches. You're the bitch from the west, I'm the bitch from the east, and we're going to have a bitch feast.
Yeah, we're both political junkies, and we're not even going to lie about it. So if you want to just talk about just cannabis, this isn't the show for you. There are so many different things that are going on across the country when it comes to cannabis as well, but human rights and civil rights and women's rights and all kinds of different things that we want to, touch on, as well as connecting west to east, because there are so, like in our introduction earlier, we were talking about, there's so many misconceptions about what Quebec's like in the west, and there's so much misconceptions about what the west is like in the east. So we want to kind of bring that into circle and introduce Quebec to the east or to the west, and introduce the west to the east, because that's what this is about, is connecting people and educating people, right?
Yes, there are many commonalities, and I will say this: we got our yahoos here in Quebec, and you got your yahoos there in the West, and they're very similar.
Well,
we're not fond of the yahoos. We got the maskless, yahoos here, and you got them there, and they're the same breed. So it's very ironic that they actually, will complain about each other, because they will, but they're actually the same.
Well, it's the bigotry. I think, when you hear like, and I think the misconceptions about, different things when it comes to oil and pipelines and so many different things about, where our country is sitting when it comes to politics, COVID, oil, climate change, cannabis. And all of these things are relevant in our lives. And I don't think that people really relate to the fact that cannabis was one of our main, actually, no, it's not. LGBTQ rights were our main human rights battle in Canada back in the 80s, when the HIV outbreak really happened in the late 80s. And that's when it really brought forward the LGBTQ community. So the first basic right, never mind abortion back in 87. So we'll go back to abortion, okay, with Morgan Tyler, and all of that. That was really the first women's right issue that, I was involved in back in the 80s. Never mind with PETA.
70s. That was 70s even.
Well, I wasn't old enough quite then, but, back in when I started becoming, aware, right? So, and then of course we had the LGBTQ. And that's still a battle for a lot of people in this day and age. It shouldn't be, but at least Canada offers same-sex marriage, which is historic for Canadians.
For sure.
But then we had cannabis. And cannabis has been a long battle, too, from the late 98 all the way through to we finally got legalization in 2019. And the legalization that we do have isn't actually ideal for everybody either. It's great if you got bucks. It's great if you're corporate. But what the Canadian government did is kind of bottleneck everything into licensed production and microcrafting. And microcrafting's only got 41 compared to 500 plus. So corporations kind of took our cannabis. And that's not what we fought for. And you
No,
and I
no,
were the front
we
lines of
still
that.
have to fight. We still have to fight, and it's not right because we're still treated like criminals. And medical cannabis is why we have legalization, but that is like not recognized, and that's got to change. And we got to have access to markets and not be treated like criminals. It's no, there's a lot of hypocrisy, and all of that I would still say is proof that colonization is in their DNA, and we still have to fight, and we are. I certainly am in Montreal. It's like the fighting is like different layers,
And
but
yeah, that's
we
the
have to
thing
do it.
with Quebec. Like, just to open the onion to begin with. Okay, so we have legalization in Canada, but in Quebec you can't grow 4 plants. In
No, which
Quebec,
is
glass blowers
disgusting.
cannot blow bongs, people.
Wrong. I know, it's so wrong.
So
Like
there's so many
they're pushing
things,
artists away. It's just so wrong.
right? And artistry is something that is it's something that
The
everybody
soul,
has, right? And I
the
think
heart
that
and soul.
exactly, it's the heart and soul of Quebec and Montreal too. Like, I mean, when you think historically back, of all the magnificent architecture and arts that are done in Montreal, for Quebec to go, you can't blow a bong. It's kind of mind blowing, you know.
It is mind blowing, and it's got to change, and it's something that I'm going to fight for change, because you're pushing these people out of the province, and these artists are the heart and soul. And they've been making like awesome things during the pandemic. They've made little, COVID, the little, corona thing with the crown glass, like these. But this is, and this is historic. And when you bring up the queer community, we got same sex marriage, a great human right, because of HIV, AIDS, and because so many people, these days are saying how sad it is that they can't be with their loved one at their deathbed. It is sad, but I'll tell you what's really sad too is when people are told you can't be at this deathbed because we're not going to recognize you as my brother or my son's lover. Like, that's why we do have same-sex marriage, because that happened over and over and over again.
Well, it's
And we're
still
going to
happening.
have
There's that fellow out here that's actually, he was married, and his husband was CP Rail. And back in the 90s, when he had his insurance policy put into effect, they didn't recognize same-sex marriage. So this poor fellow has now died, and his partner has been fighting with CP Rail for 9 years to get them to recognize that he was his spouse, and so that he can collect any insurance. And I believe I seen it on the news last night. But again, like, because it isn't until recently that same-sex, well, it's been, 20 years, I guess now, but still, like, early 90s, you were not recognized as a partner. It wasn't
right.
recognized as being legitimately married, and that changed in what year did that happen? Actually,
Well, I think it's been about 15. Like, Canada was one of the first countries.
It was, yes.
And we weren't the first, but we were one of the first. So we are a leader in that, which is great. And it proves too that when you do have human rights, it brings prosperity. So it's been at least 15 years. It could be close to 20. I've lost count, but
well, again, with cannabis too, like, again, a human right for medical, and how many years we've had to battle for that, a basic.
decades.
But again, Canada
decades.
being, the second, well, the first, G7 country to do it to begin with. And, was it Portugal that I guess legalized small amounts to begin with? But Canada was the biggest and the first to really
Big
legalize
country.
recreational and bring
Yeah.
forth this corporate market. Because even in the U.S., I mean, it's not the same in state to state. They still don't have any federal regulations on marijuana. And
Yes, they're going state by state.
Right.
And so we were the first big G7 country
Yeah, absolutely,
to
yeah.
do it, for sure.
Yeah.
But, we did it with hypocrisy, because, if you're not a millionaire, you don't get in. And that just sucks. That just really, that's just disgusting. Like, at least California and now New York, like, they're recognizing that they've got to do something for the people
They're going
who
to
are
expunge
harmed.
it. I heard Schumer.
And they're also going to allow them to have dispensaries. Like,
Yeah.
we should be able to have dispensaries.
Yeah.
But we're still being raided, and that's just not right.
Oh, I know. Justin Lloyd's just got raided in Toronto last week again.
Who did?
For the first time, Justin Lloyd's. He had been running under the the medical for about 5 years without. He made it through Project Claudia and everything. And Justin's sick. He's got MS. Like, he's not a healthy man. And they raided him in Toronto last week. It was 5 days ago. And like he said, when I watched his live feed, and he was saying they could have just come and knocked on the door and told me to stop, and I would have. Instead of coming in and raiding me and causing severe trauma and upset, right, for himself. Because I mean, he's like I said, he's sick too. He's a patient, right? So it really, like, for them to go in and start crashing doors in and smashing and taking and stealing and from patients again, like, Michelle and Doug are still. There's so many across the country that are still battling for, another one in Lethbridge because they got, caught with candies and things that aren't, with the little sticker that say duty on them. They were raided or they were busted too in Lethbridge. I haven't spoken to him at all, but they were running around in an ambulance and serving patients. And of course, it didn't have the duty stickers on it. There's still companies running in the black, and this is what they're doing, right? But now Health Canada wants to change that again, and because they're seeing the diversion still from the patients, and they've got this other great consultation out, 75 days that we're almost at the end of, where they want to cap our gram per day in our plant counts again. So again, here we are back fighting for medical when they've, pushed through recreational with great guns because they figured it was going to be money, money, money. What they've done is oversaturate the market so fucking bad that nobody's making any money. I don't know how anybody's making money.
We have to shame them, but now that we've had COVID and so many bars and restaurants have suffered incredibly, this is a good opportunity to say, look, we can have recreational lounge models that are in these establishments. We could set some, guidelines, but we should always have a medical model, because we need a medical model that addresses the atrocious war on drugs and its fallout for the last fucking 50 years. Right. It's time to start saying, look, this has been so damaging and people have had their lives ruined, that, we deserve to have a place of recovery. We deserve to create jobs for those who've been most impacted by the war on drugs, got arrested, and move forward. I think this is the time, this is a really good time to do it, because the pandemic has basically, created such a economic disaster for so many. But it's time to recognize what the war on drugs has actually done, because it hasn't been, it's not recognized.
The war on drugs is causing the addiction problem to be worse than it is. Like, I'm so pissed off right now. Like, it was hard for me to come on after the incident that happened here today, like with my son's bike being stolen out from underneath my nose and my front, in my yard. And I know it's the addicts in town. I can't even be angry about it, because I know that it's not really their fault. Yet part of me wants to be really angry about it because of the fact that they're bringing toxic poison drugs and making these people just want to tear their skin off. There's no safe supply. There's no recovery beds. There's no treatment. There's nothing. And they just keep throwing it out there, and the stigma that goes along with it. And it pisses me off so bad that these people are having to steal from children to support their fucking habits. And I'm trying not to sound bitter about it, because I've been there, done it, got a shirt. I'm a recovered, myself. I have a daughter that still suffers with addiction, and addiction's a mental health and trauma problem. And I know this, and I understand it so well, but it's because we have this war on drugs and it still fucking continues. And because we stigmatize the drug user and we don't get them the proper help that they need unless they've got fucking money. This place, these recovery places are tens of thousands of dollars. People go, you can go get help, it's free. No, it's not. It's not fucking free to go get recovery. And there's so few beds. And there's so few recovery houses. And you have to base on the fact that it comes from poverty and trauma. You can't just fix it by throwing them into a place and saying you're going to dry up for 30 days and that's going to solve all your problems. That's not how it works.
The other day I was on the metro, and I wear this green jacket, and with my mask on, I often get, mistaken for a sir, a monsieur, and these STM, Metro cops, came on, and they were very aggressive, telling everyone to get off, and they were like, "Monsieur," to me, and get off the train. And so I got off. Somebody had jumped, and we know that if there's 10,000 or 12,000 deaths in Quebec from COVID, there's probably as many deaths that are COVID related. Maybe some are COVID, maybe some are heart attacks and strokes that people didn't want to go to the hospital for. But there is such an epidemic of overdosing and suicide.
Yeah.
Like it is as bad as COVID.
It is.
It's the war on drugs. It's the war on drugs. It's politicians who refuse to really talk about it. Sometimes they'll mention it around the time of an election. They'll say a few little platitudes here and there, but they never address it because they live in privilege. They live in privilege bubbles. They just do. They do. And this is where community-based cannabis lounges could be life-saving. People need jobs. People need security. People need places to go where they can have group therapy. People need alternatives. They need a safe supply. If they're going to do street drugs, they should be able to have it tested so they know what they're taking so that they don't die, and have it tested without stigma, like what Dana is doing out in Vancouver. I mean, that is the solution.
We have an Anchors here as well in Cranbrook that does drug testing here every day of the week. We were able to get a homeless, an area rezoned to build a homeless shelter because there's no homeless shelter, like 24-hour homeless shelter in Cranbrook either. And it's desperately needed. But you know what else is desperately needed? That we've got street angels where they're fed. We've got meals that they feed anybody who's hungry in this town. You will not go hungry in this town. There are people that have got carrying home meals and all kinds of programs that if you will never starve here. But there is no fucking recovery beds. There are 4 detox beds in this whole town, and there's nowhere to go except for top of the mountain for treatment, and it's $30,000 a month. Yeah, so you've got this group of people,
not realistic,
that are living on our streets that are never going to be able to attain any of that, and that's the problem. My daughter as well. Like we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to send Rihanna to treatment. Even if we did, she wouldn't go, and that's the whole thing. Like you can only lead a horse to water. You cannot make them drink, and 90% of these people that have addiction problems don't want the help. They don't want it. They don't care. They don't want to live. They don't have enough balls to pull the trigger. And how I know that is because I was one of them. I was so depressed and so down on my luck, and everything in my life was so disdain. Everything was so dark that all I wanted to do was die. So I figured the next crack hoot I take might kill me because I was too big of a coward. I wasn't, the one person that was going to pull that trigger. I just wanted to kill myself slowly. And so many people do that, and they're not understanding the trauma that goes along. So you have to, I don't know what the answers are, but I know for myself it took a lot of self-seeking, self-healing, self-doing, and wanting to do it for myself. Nobody held my hand for it. Nobody sent me to treatment, and nobody held my hand. I did that on my own because I wanted to live. I wanted to get my life back. And they say, Suboxone and methadone and all these things are needed. When you're that far down that rabbit hole, you need that because your body is so physically addicted. You will die if you don't get that help. But to get that help, you have to then go to a doctor, admit that you need the help, and then your medical records for the rest of your life are tainted. The minute you admit that you're a drug addict, it is all over your fucking medical records till the day you die. So that, again, is something else that causes stigma for people not to want to go in and get the help that they need, even to their own GP.
All of that needs to be addressed. It really does, and I think it's something that people, if they have a place to come together and have support, that they can come up with the solutions. The solution has to come from the people who are suffering from the addiction. That is
support groups, lounges, exactly where you talk about.
Well, it's, I'm not
substitution
saying it's like the
programs.
whole solution, but it's definitely a solution. And,
It's a part. It's a start.
every city right now, Toronto's parks are full of tents. Montreal has tent city. Like, we do have to have homes for homeless. Like, that is something that needs to happen across the country. It just seems like that's another thing that COVID has really exposed. And yes, we need treatment. We need different types of treatment centers because, like you said, many of them people are not going to go to, and people are not going to go to doctors if they're going to be stigmatized for the rest of their damn life.
Programs where you get there and they take away your caffeine, your tobacco, your substance of choice, and tell you to go and sit in a bed and eat and whatever for the next 30 days. Like, that's, and when I went to detox back, we're talking like 20 years ago now. They handed me a book and told me to find my own treatment center. There was no AA set up way to do all that on our own if we wanted to. There was nothing. There was no programs. There was nothing. You went to Fort Macleod. It was not abstinent based back then. They had coffee and they had tea and you could smoke cigarettes, but now you can't.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
So you take all that away from somebody, and then you expect them to go and try and heal. Well, there's no therapy there. There's no counselor there. There's nobody even asking you why you're doing the drugs or why you are there. They bring you in, they count you off as a number, they check you by the door, which means that they're going to get paid for you because it's a business now. Because that's what this has become. Drug addiction has become a business. It's become a great big fat corporation. So they've got these private homes, private recovery centers,
and pharmacies involved, right? Like big pharma's involved.
Absolutely, with methadone and
Suboxone. I know.
Right? So it's become a great big contraption of business. And the only way we're going to, how do you even fight against that? When you got corporate places that are, and like I said, the government will pay if you're on like disability or stuff, a certain portion. I think it's $350 a day though, even to go to Clara's home, which was for alcohol and drugs. Like, we're not even talking just drugs. Alcohol too, like alcohol's the most used substance out there, the most abused substance out there, the most harmful substance out there, an illegal substance at that, and one of the most addictive substances we've got. So, and then they want to talk cannabis about being, shut the fuck up.
Well, why don't they at the very least they could do, because in Quebec, the government runs all the stores and every province, at the very least that they could do is, with some of that money, with the profits that they are making, they should be putting it towards addiction programs and homeless programs. That's the very least they could do. But are they? No, I don't think so. I don't see any evidence.
I don't see any evidence of that either. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to turn my phone off because it just keeps going off. Sorry, everybody. I just kind of keep hearing this ring. It's like, what do you want? I'm busy right now. Why does nobody ever know that? We're going to actually take a quick break here and thank our sponsors, because we have sponsors on the network. Actually, no, we got a few more minutes. We can wait a minute before we do that. But we do have sponsors. I would like to thank them too. But this is our debut show. We're just getting started. Tonight's my first time running this board. So if there's a fuck up,
doing a great job, Goddess. Doing a great job, Goddess.
If there's a fuck up, it's my fault. I can't blame Al anymore. There's nobody behind the mic.
Can we talk about your beautiful song? Oh my God, it's iconic. It's so fantastic.
I haven't picked up a mic in a very long time. Like a very long time.
Amazing job.
And then we had to worry about copyright infringement, right? But I've been wanting, when I heard that song, like Gino Vanelli, I love that song anyways, right? It's a really good soul tune.
It's such a sexy song, and you made weed so sexy in that song. It's so awesome what you did.
Yeah. So, but Al, poor Al couldn't download it, so it sounds like it's kind of off in the distance, so it's hard to hear. But we'll figure it out. I'll figure out a better platform to get that redone. But yeah, it's a hidden secret. Tamara I sing a little.
Well, I hope it's a start of you singing more, because you are talented, and I love what you did with the song and how you changed the words and how you made weed so sexy in Montreal. And I think you got to come back to Montreal and smoke some more.
I think so too. I love Montreal. I didn't want to leave. I honestly did not want to go home. That was probably one of the only. I've been to Toronto a couple times and didn't really give a shit. But I'm telling you, like, I really did not want to leave Montreal. And I was only there for, 4 days? But it was during the Festival of Lights, too, right? In February. Yeah. So it was cold. But I mean, we had all the fire spinners and all of the festival going on, and the fire and the Ferris wheel outside, and then the cobblestone. And we didn't even get to Old Montreal. Like, I didn't even get to Old Montreal. I just got to see part of it because we were at the Liberal Convention. Let's face it, we were there for a purpose. I was a delegate, so we had to be at meetings. We had to be at certain things. If we wanted legalization to happen, I had to vote on that. So I had to be at that portion of the convention so I could vote.
Yeah, it was historic for sure. It was historic, but I know that you're going to come back, and we'll really explore, and we'll walk along the canal, and we'll toke along the canal, and yes, there's so many beautiful parts of this city for sure.
I want to explore. Like, absolutely. I think when I come down there, I think though we should go on a road trip. I think I'll drive out. I think we'll drive out, and then we'll have to do a road trip because I want to go see Quebec City too. I want to go check out Hull. Yeah. I want to go check out the whole province. Like in reality, like Montreal is beautiful, but I think when we do come, we'll drive out, and so we can throw you in the car and we can just go touring. I think that's a better idea. Sure,
Quebec City is definitely worth absolutely visiting, but there's a place called Tadoussac, and you take a little ferry to get there, and I saw beluga whales when we took the little ferry last time, and they are such special. I love
those. Those are my favorite whales,
and
actually.
They're like dogs. Like you can throw a ball at them. There's a video on Facebook of a guy, the whale brings the ball and he keeps throwing it. Like there's something special, and they, the sea is so blue there, and they're white, and they really stand out. And Tadoussac is also, it's just so beautiful, but it's like one of the places where the very first trading post between Indigenous, Scottish, and French happened. And so it's historical, but it's also the landscape is so beautiful.
I think that's why I love Quebec so much. It's because of the historic value. Like, that's where Canada started. And I think that's why I get so pissed off at people out the West where they start being goddamn Frenchmen, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what? If it wasn't for those goddamn Frenchmen, we wouldn't have Canada. We'd be fucking part of the goddamn United States. So you better thank the Frenchmen.
The struggle of French and English, but Indigenous. We have to, like, when I feel a little defensive about the language issue, I think I just think they could do it so much better with a digital technology imprint and platform, and also like absolutely why can't we have some Indigenous languages too, like in terms of services, health services, other government services, getting your license, whatever. There's
a way that Canada is. The rest of Canada is. Quebec might not be doing that so much, but the rest of Canada is. Like, if you go up to the northern parts of my province, there's Cree written and the different Indigenous languages on our road signs.
Yeah, well, we're so stuck on French and English, and now the French are dominant, and so the English have to be beaten down, and but before the English were dominant, and they beat the French down, and it's like we're in this like cycle of like a dysfunctional,
this new language law,
abusive
right? These
marriage,
new language laws, and this whole Bill C-10 and what it boils down to is language laws. And that's why this whole Bill C-10 was even brought up, is because Quebec wanted some more not so much notoriety, but they wanted more control over the French language.
I can see it from the perspective, they feel like, they're surrounded by English around the world, like North America, it's one little French spot. So there's a need to keep it strong. But what's not really appreciated is, in Montreal today, more people are bilingual. They do speak French more than they ever have, but it's like never good enough for this government. And the fact that they introduced this need for language police during a pandemic when everybody's suffering is just like, it just sucks. But, it's, I understand that I'm sure, yes, have French, foremost, but you don't have to do it by treating others like shite, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it by creating more of a police state. Like we already have like cannabis cops where nobody else has cannabis cops.
Oh no, we got
and
them
they're
here too.
and they're paid, no, they're paid for, like they're paid,
Yeah, I know.
the Ministry of Health cops paid for by the federal government. Like I just love it how the federal government pays for cannabis cops in Quebec. Like that's just a bit much, like, so they're getting like, so we got cannabis cops, and then now we're going to have language cops, and it's just it's ridiculous because there's a way to strengthen the culture and the language without, making it a police state. And I don't think that's going to be good for the economy. But,
Right.
This government is still popular. So,
Yeah, well, I find
yeah.
it really funny too, the block too, federally too, right? Like you see him in there too, and they'll go to, like, they're just always seemingly pushing both federal like all three of the other parties to task, right? But again, it's always about Quebec. It's always Quebec is first and foremost. It's very separatist. And they've always been like that. Like as long as I remember, Quebec has always wanted to stand on its own entity, its own sovereignty, and its own separatism. And I just have never quite understood that, because you're the beginning of Canada. So why would you want to leave? You know what I mean?
It's just like a historical fight that, just like I say, it's like a bad marriage, and it's a historical fight. And yes, the English did treat the French poorly, but now, the French are dominant, and I guess, the one who's dominant gets to be the abusive one, because that's how it's feeling. And they are pushing people away, and they do it with my other minorities, not just English, and they also, like, they're changing their mind about cannabis. At first, they wanted to see it as a big bad drug, but now they're like making money. So now, like, maybe this isn't so bad.
We're going to take a break and thank our sponsors. So I'm going to say thank you for listening to us right now on paceradio.net. We're going to listen to our sponsors. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. You're listening to us live on paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888 and grow on with CTCP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
All right, we're back.
We're back?
I think
All
I
right.
did it.
You know, I love Quebec, and I do. And I wish I spoke French. And I just wish that there could be ways for people like me who have maybe a bit of a learning disability, came here when I was old, to, you know, try harder. Like I said, if there was some device where I could speak English and the French version could show up, and then I could like speak it in French, like, just something like that. And if
A translator.
also an
Like, you need a
indigenous language.
translator, right? You need a translator, somebody that will translate for you.
Well, I did date a woman who only spoke French, and I only spoke English, and we used, the Translate app to like communicate. Like that's what gave me this idea that there's a way to do it, and to also bring in people who are hearing impaired. I'm very sensitive to these folks because I have some hearing impairment myself, and also something that I've noticed visiting many underground lounges in Ontario over the years is that, the hearing impaired community does come into lounges, like they feel comfortable, and we don't do enough to include them. We should do something more. Like, so when we think about language, like, can we at least like get beyond just thinking about French and English? We should be thinking about Indigenous. Like, that should be something that we should definitely be thinking about, but also we should be thinking about people who are hearing impaired, and we make it seem like it's a privilege when there's a sign language person. No, it's not. It should be a human right. So I just want the language issue to be opened up, and French culture could be made stronger if it had an open way of doing it, instead of this like, oh, we have to hire police. Are you kidding me? No, yeah. That's just not the way.
Overregulation on everything. I think that's where where you see these COVIDiots, as we call them, because they feel like they're because we are overregulated. There's so many things that are overregulated in our society when it comes to, like you said, should be a human right. Language shouldn't be an issue. We shouldn't have to be regulated by a medical patient wanting to be able to grow their own cannabis and have to get a license through Health Canada. Like, there's so many, it's just ridiculous on so many levels. Like, why we're so overregulated.
Because they created the war on drugs. I mean, they're the ones who created it. They created it. They created this horrible war on drugs. And everybody's paying the price for it, and they won't acknowledge the damage that they've done. They just won't, because if they did, it would be, I don't know, it's so deep, and so they just rather not acknowledge it. But it's time to acknowledge it.
So we want to be the devil's advocate here. So they have the whole defund the police issue. Then we have this whole pandemic issue where we don't feel we've got enough policing because nobody's doing enough about it. So what's the double-edged sword on that? Because, at one point we're talking overregulation, then we're talking decriminalize or, defunding.
Well, I would say refund instead of like defund. I would say refund. Like, there's things that can be obviously defunded. Like, I'd like to see like no more goddamn tear gas at a protest, because, in our lounges we have committee meetings with community people and police, and we do protest differently. Like for some reason in Quebec and Montreal, I don't understand why why protests have to always turn into a riot where there's like property damage. Like it shouldn't have to be this way, but it's like it's an accepted norm and it sucks, but this is something that again, this dynamic should change. So yeah, let's put funding into community-based cannabis lounges from, all this money that the government's making now off of cannabis. And still, tens of thousands of people who were harmed are still like left, to die or to like be sick or to, to have nothing while, the government reaps all the benefits. No, it's not right. And so that should change. And that's something that I think, programs in community-based cannabis lounges could address. We need to address it. Otherwise, our society's never going to be good, or we're going to always, think we're always going to be having these conflicts with the police. We don't have to have these conflicts with the police.
Well, I find it really, like you said, with Montreal too, like it seems to be the norm, like even the FLQ back in the day, and the violence usually comes out of Quebec. It was kind of like they had a riot in Vancouver over a hockey game. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, when you think about Quebec, you think about riots and huge, protests about all kinds of different things.
And the police are like military, like they're dressed like military and all of that, that should change. It really doesn't. Coming from Toronto and being a protester from age 12 to the time I moved to Montreal, age 48, 14 years ago, I was involved in so many protests, and there was one very intense one. It was an anti-racism protest, and I was at the front line, and there was a cop on a horse, and I saw the bottom of the horse's horseshoe, but I never saw people like starting fires and throwing bricks at windows, like ever. I never ever saw that. So it was a bit of a shock when I moved here and started to attend protests, but less and less.
Well, even the G20, like let's face it, even the G20 in Toronto.
Well, that's when it got bad.
That was more, because of right. But I mean, the cops really, put a fucking damper on that one, and that was where that kind of went, right?
They were sued. The police were sued because they kettled, they like rounded people up. They were throwing so many people. No, that was just disgusting. That was Harper, and that's when that, up until that, and many people I know who were there have PTSD from that experience, and that was disgusting. And that's, conservative governments. I mean, it's disgusting. So, protest is so important for democracy. It really is a pillar. Like the media is a pillar. Like, freedom of expression is a pillar. Protest is a pillar, but peaceful protest. And I really hate that it, has to turn into something so ugly. I can't accept it. It really bothers me.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should be able to get back to peaceful protests, and we should be able to have it in Montreal as well. There should be a will. There should be a community committee that involves community leaders, people who are anti-capitalist, whatever, who are like, into protesting, and the police, and they should be sitting down at the table, and they should be planning out how protests are going to, roll out.
Yeah,
I want to see. And cannabis could be part of the protests as well. Like, in terms of handing out joints to, people who are more violent or aggressive. Like, yeah, get the cannabis in the protest. But in the past, the police would run after the person who was like smoking a joint and, whatever, like that's just stupid. So now that we're in legalization, that should be something that should be enhanced in a big way.
Yeah.
Using cannabis in a big way is a harm reduction.
Well, the stigma is still there. Like that's the thing. The stigma is still there. Like even myself personally, like I don't want to be seen at a store. It's got nothing to do with, the fact that it's, whatever. But I still like, even when Alvin's going away to work, like he works, he doesn't want to be seen at a legal store in case one of the consultants or somebody sees him there. So the stigma is still there, even with legalization. And I think that's the worst part about it, is that the stigma is still there because they still see it as a drug. And just like alcohol is a drug.
So, you know that I was talking to my kid's other grandmother. She's a bubby, and she was talking about her husband who's 80 years old, and he dropped a few of his pills and he started smoking, and he's feeling better, and he just told his doctor, and his doctor was like, he's 80 years old, listen to this. And the doctor said to him, "Aren't you worried about becoming addicted?" And, and he's like, he's dropped some of these pills that are like, probably turning his liver into like an olive pit. Like, you know what I mean? And like, it's just like the doctors are still so fucking.
Well, I mean, I think I brought this up in one of my last cannabis and coffee shows. I can't remember who my guest was, where we have to, and we've said this for decades. It's not even the doctors. The doctors don't get educated because the college and physicians. So you got these big, fat, fancy white guys sitting at the top of the fucking college and physicians in every province, and I'll guarantee you they're all old white guys. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
And they don't want to hear about the cannabinoid system, endocannabinoid system. But there are actual courses that they can take, and there are accredited courses. But the college and physicians don't force them to, and they should. But it's all optional, right? But they are accredited courses. I remember Jade telling me about that when, because Jan took them, I believe, and Jan was teaching them before he passed away. So they do offer them. It's not that they don't; they just choose not to. But the college and physicians actively stop them. They've actively stopped them from signing medical patients for decades. It's
an old white supremacy boys club, let's be honest. And, they're not willing to change. The younger generation will be, they are different, but they're still very much ruled by, the pill. And they don't, and they treat the pill like the pill's not addictive or not damaging.
Right.
That's what's so incredible to hear. This doctor, like, aren't you worried he's going to be addicted? Oh my, he smokes
I'd be more
smokes
worried about him being addicted to the morphine they're plowing into him. Here, take some more morphine, but don't worry about that cannabis, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have, well, I know you've been having you were having some medical issues and having a difficult time getting a doctor in Quebec too. It's just as hard to get a doctor anywhere, I guess, here as well. And I think that's a huge gap in Canadian healthcare too, is that we're so lacking in physicians that actually understand anything. Never mind the fact that we don't have any physicians, period. And the ones that we do have right now are being so beaten down with COVID, we're not going to have any healthcare workers left.
Oh my God, I know. After COVID, I mean, I feel that's why I'm so angry at these COVIDiots. Who think that they have a right to spread a deadly disease and protest and yell in people's faces.
And here we are. This is the hypocrisy of both of us, right? We're both the biggest, loudest. Human rights. Go out. I'm gonna protest. I'm gonna fucking. And here we both are going. Why are you protesting about something like? And we're both anti. Like we're totally like on the same page with that. Like, I believe that you have the right to protest. We're having a health pandemic right now. And
I don't believe that I actually don't believe that they have the right to protest their selfishness and their soullessness.
Yeah, see, like,
and
that's
the
right,
fact that, look at, I have had a problem with doctors for a very long time, but, I absolutely believe that you have to help the front lines. And the front lines are suffering so much because of COVID, and people should be thinking about them. I'm thinking about them. I'm worried about them. I'm worried about other people who I needed them over the last few months. I had to go to the ER. But, I'm also always worried about vulnerable people. And it just astounds me that people could be so selfish to not think about vulnerable people, or the fact that our front lines, like you say, our doctors and nurses, they're wiped out. They're exhausted. They're at the end of their rope. Like I feel like
I am. I'm worried. Are we going to have any left?
Them.
Like when I went to do work BC, she's like, "You want to go into healthcare?" I'm like, "No, I can't. I can't go into healthcare. I'm not built for it. First of all, secondly, because I've got that said record, I can't get into healthcare. But they're in high demand right now. They're like anybody who walks the door that wants to go back to school right now. And in fact, my one other girlfriend's daughter's just waiting to get into nursing school. and another one that's just getting ready to go to be an RN too. Like, and they're all just plowing into this nursing, which is great. But if you remember, that's what happened during polio too, and during the Spanish flu, and during the wars. All young women decided to go be nurses, and we had an influx of great nurses in the 70s and 80s, great nurses that all have retired now, unfortunately. But an influx of war and pandemic brought in great healthcare and that's, at the end of the Second World War, kind of like, why we've got national healthcare in Canada. But again, our doctors are for frontline workers. And it's not just the doctors and the nurses, it's people at the grocery stores. It's people at 7-Eleven.
For sure.
It's the people that are out there working every single day out in public.
Like, how can people not think about others? Like, that's what I'm really disgusted by these COVIDiots. I'm truly disgusted by them. They make me very angry because of their selfishness. And they are keeping this pandemic going. If you don't get your public health in order, your economy is not going to come back. Like, that's just a reality. So you have to focus on your
sick people
health.
don't shop. Dead people don't work. Dead people don't travel. And sick people with these long haulers don't travel and go shopping much either. All it's going to do is feed into the healthcare system with physiotherapy and air, oxygen, and all the extra things that people are going to need, because there are long haulers. This doesn't. And there are people. I'm not going to say there aren't people that the recovery rate is what it is, and there are people that recover, but they also have long-term problems, and there are people that don't get any symptoms. I've got this girl on my Facebook. I've been watching her plight. She's got COVID. She figured she was going to plow through this like nothing. Her whole family's got it. Her kids, her husband. She's now on day 7, and she's thinking it's time to go to the hospital. Last time, another lady that I read, she went to the hospital on day 7 because all she could do was lay there and barely breathe.
Yeah.
And they took her to the hospital. Her saturation was so low that if they would have taken her to the hospital, she would have just laid in her bed and stopped breathing.
Yes, it's happened. A lot of people died at home, because they were worried about going to the hospital, which is crazy. But
they didn't think they were sick enough. I think was what they were, and a lot of people are like that. Even when I'm sick, that's not that bad. Oh, it'll get better. Oh, the pain. Even with my pain tolerance too, because I'm so used to being in pain that I just push it off. And no, I don't need to do that. No, it'll be fine. And and I think that's where our society is too, where a lot of us have been told, depending on your generation, suck it up. Suck it up.
Yeah.
You can take it. Suck it up. Right. So a lot, depending on the generation, and a lot of them are sitting at home going, "Oh, I'm not that sick. Oh, if I just maybe take another, couple Advils, this will go away." And then they get to the point where it's a matter of 12 hours and they're dead.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's happened over and over.
And I love the ones that are, it's a scam-demic. And the next thing you hear is my mom's got COVID. Yeah. That was what I seen today, and I was just like, wow. My condolences and my sympathies go out to this person and their mother. I'm not going to mention who it is, but again, a few days ago, it was all about a scam-demic, and today it's. I wish it was me that was dying and not my mother. And I just want to honestly shake them and go, the government's not making this up. They don't have a clue what the fuck they're doing, obviously. If this was some big controlled fucking plan, do you think they would be floundering and having to reclose and open and reclose? They'd have a plan already. They'd already have us microchipped and fucking lined up. They have no plan. And they've proven that over and over again. You know what I mean? There's no big conspiracy theory here. They can't keep it together long enough to even figure one out. You said, I just kind of shake my head. I'm just trying to get through it. I've had my vaccination. Alvin's had his vaccination.
Oh, good.
We're just trying to get
I've got one. I'm waiting for my second one.
Yeah,
and
me
I'm
too. We're waiting for our second.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Loretta? That means that I could come to Montrel because, this whole carrot with the vaccine, too, is you can actually be around other people that have had the vaccine.
Yes.
So if we've had 2 vaccines and I've had 2 vaccines. And
do you know when you're getting your second one? Do you know?
They say 16 weeks. It's only just been a month for me.
It'll be the 14th. Got a date. I'm July 20th.
So. See, and I haven't got a date yet. But it'll be a month on the 14th of May for me. So.
No, when we're fully vaccinated, girlfriend, bitch, we're like gonna
Right?
have a bitch fest
Right.
in
That's what I mean.
person.
And that's a nice thing that I will even wear a mask. If the mandate says that I still have to wear a mask, I will wear a mask. But at least I know that I'll be able to get on a plane because I've had my vaccination. And I mean, even domestically, like I don't believe in mandatory vaccines either. I'm definitely not an anti-vaxxer, but I don't believe that anybody should be forced to put anything into their body if they don't want to.
Right, but
I'm
I think
pro-choice with
like
that. But it's also my
right?
choice, exactly. But it's also my choice not to be around you. So you can choose not to
Sure.
have that vaccine. I won't hold it against you, but I won't be around you because that would be my choice too. And I think that's what pisses me off is our charter rights are just as valid as theirs.
Yes, sure. And restaurants can say, look, if you want to work here, you need to be vaccinated. A lot of places can say that, or they can not say that. Like that is up to the
you
corporation.
can choose to not get a shot, and that job can choose not to have you work there or choose to hire you. That's what happens with capitalism. And here everybody's screaming, "Oh, it's communism!" We live in the most capitalist fucking goddamn country in the world.
They don't even know what communism is.
But we live in capitalist. Like people make money, they keep their money. But again, because we got big corporations telling you that you can't do this, that's their right as a corporation, private company, right? Because Canada is a capitalist society, not communist. Oh God! Like I said, it doesn't matter though. You can talk to your blue in the fucking face, and they don't care. They've got that stuck in their head, and that's their little idea, and they have every right to have it. You know what? Everybody's has a right to have their own opinion. You can express it in any way you like to. Doesn't mean I have to listen, nor do you have to listen to me either. You don't have to listen to my show. You can turn it off. You don't have to listen to Loretta and mine show. You can turn it off. That's true. Right? You don't want to see us. You don't want to. You can block me on Facebook. I don't give a fuck because that's where I'm at.
You can put me in Facebook jail again.
Right.
I'm a felon many times over.
But I'm to the point where before, it was really offensive. Oh my God, that person took me off the friends list. Now I just don't care. I offended you. Let me. I'm not finished yet. Just hang on. I got to come up with something else. I'm not done yet. I'm sure I'll be offending you some more. But that's kind of always been the way I've been. I don't put up with and that's why we protest. Why we went out and fought for our rights as cannabis people that use it for medical purposes, whether you want to smoke it to get high. I don't give a fuck about that either, to be honest with you. But I think that I don't want a goddamn medical license, honestly, Loretta. I don't. I never wanted one to begin with. I didn't want the dog tag. I didn't want to fucking have anything to do with it. I just wanted to be able to smoke it, grow it, and not have to go to jail for it. And then I did that too. So, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I understand that. I just feel like there was such efforts that led to legalization that to be left out and to be still treated like criminals is just wrong.
Yeah, it totally is.
So that's the fight, but I get that too because again, it should never have been as hard as it was, but it seemed to be the only way out of the drug war mentality, which was 50 years in the making, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Reefer Madness, and I started in the States, then came up here, and like I said, it's just been a long time coming for legalization. Even though it's not ideal, we don't have to look over our shoulder anymore. We can roll around with a bag of weed in our trunk and get pulled over, and they're not gonna throw us in jail anymore. We're not going to get slammed up into...
No, but they still want to take money. Like, in Quebec, a friend of mine was on the street smoking, and he got, like, a big fine.
Oh, yeah.
And, he's low income, and it's like, yeah, we know that it's classist and it's racist. Of course it is, but, they don't want to admit that there's systemic racism in this government. I mean, I don't think we should ever have politicians any politician who says there's no systemic racism, they gotta go. They just have got to go.
They shouldn't even be.
It's just BS.
Well, yeah,
like it's just the biggest BS ever.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the latest one that came out with out of their People's Party idiot Maxime Bernier.
Oh, he's the worst. Worst. Oh my God.
Maxine out there, saying racist bigot things about junk meat. Like,
and then saying, I'm not a racist. Like, yeah, we know racist. We know that's what you say. We know the racists say that. That's the first thing out of their mouth. I'm not a racist.
I'm not a racist, or I don't see color. Well, you should see color, and you should acknowledge that color, and you should fucking stand up for your colored brothers and sisters. Don't say you don't see color, because you goddamn should, and you do. And you should acknowledge it. Never mind fucking not seeing it. You're colorblind, my fucking ass. That's the biggest fucking line of shit I've ever heard in my life. And you know what? I used to say that. I used to think that was okay to say. And then somebody said to me one time, and they pointed out, and they were right. Totally right. Like, you have to see the color. You have to acknowledge the culture and the beauty of everybody in this on this planet. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Everybody has their own being, and they should be embraced and loved for that. And that's where, you know, I think
at least treated the same, but it's not. It's just not
exactly.
It's not true. So,
but again, like I said, you know, I want to encourage people to, if they have time, to take that 12-week Indigenous Studies course at the University of Alberta. You want to learn about Indigenous peoples of Canada. That is the best course to take, and it's free. And we're down to our last 2 minutes, so I just want to shout out, not really shout out, but just mention that I haven't gotten the GoFundMe up for Haley Rose yet, because GoFundMe is screwing me around.
Please talk about that. That's so important.
Yeah, and I can't take e-transfers because I can't put the money into my own bank account, and neither can Cheryl. So I'm fighting with GoFundMe, and all it has to do is some stupid password. Like, it will not let me update my password, so I can't get into start it. So it's not like it's forgotten about. It hasn't. I know Cheryl's got a little bit of money that somebody's wanting to donate. But we're doing it. Like I said, it's not off the table. It's not. I'm just fighting with GoFundMe to get the stupid account set up.
But also somebody who might be connected to a car dealer, if they could do a donation to possibly like of a van or whatever that can be modified for disability.
Yeah, exactly. Or if anybody knows anybody out there that has a decent used, fairly new van that's already got a conversion that would donate it, that's something else we'd be looking at too.
Please.
So, like I said, I hate to be, you know, I know times are tough for everybody, and I know that nobody's got a lot of money, but that's something that's really something that needs to be done. But like I said, I'll get that GoFundMe set up. Like I said, I've been fighting with it for 2 days. I've been fighting with GoFundMe for 2 days, trying to get that up on my phone, on my computer, and then I've been, you know, trying to learning. I've got a lot on my plate. Let's put it that way right now. So I've just kind of got everything but the Haley Rose fundraiser is a go still, and we want to get her a van. So that being said, we'll be back next week.
That was fun, girlfriend.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week because we'll be back every Monday night at 7 my time and 9 o'clock Eastern time, which, you know, it's a little later, but yeah. And we're gonna probably get some guests on eventually here. We just kind of wanted to run through this tonight, kind of get the feel. Yeah, and we just kind of want to get the feel of how we're going to bang off each other and stuff for the first little bit too, and see how this is going to go. And then we're going to bring some people in, and we might even do some video, especially when we can get some glass blowers. We'd like to do some glass blowing demos. Yeah. We'd like to do some hash making demos. We'd like to do some online, like, you know, do some visuals too. But again, we're just getting started. So thanks for listening.
It's been a blast, girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's been such a blast.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening, and thanks for listening to our debut show, and we'll be back next week on paceradio.net. So we'll be talking to you then. Night.
Au revoir.
When I think about those nights in Montreal, all I think about is
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. Their values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
The People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network provides its listeners with news, information, and a place to be heard. This is done with a twice-weekly broadcast of the Reefer Reporters and by providing cannabis advocates a place to be heard through Cannabis and Coffee with Tamara and the award-winning Pace Radio Show. Catch it all here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
What is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network? It's a network of people advocating cannabis education.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888. The only way to go.
We are People Advocating Cannabis Education here at paceradio.net.